Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are talking about the Tao Te Ching today, as we do every morning. It is December 31st. This is the last day of 2024, and it's a great time to be able to just take a moment or more and look back at where we might have been living under the influence in 2024. Where we were living in fear, where that fear stems from, and taking a moment to look at what we did in 2024 that maybe we didn't like that we were doing. It's great if we can take a moment every evening and look at this as a day. It's like, oh, well, did I do anything today that I don't like that I did? Did I do anything today in which I was under the influence of assumptions, or if I was holding expectations? We can do that at the end of the day. We can do that at the end of an hour. We can do that at the end of a month. We can do that at the end of the year. Being that this time, it's like time is almost standing still. I've talked about Rauhnacks, and the rough nights, in which time stands still, kind of. It feels like it does, or it doesn't exist. It's a good time to just kind of sit in a bubble bath and just think back to what happened this year with me that I don't like, the me that responded to that, right? Like what's going on? And it's a good time to reflect. Just think back. I'm not always keen on, thinking back and judgment and, holding on to things. The whole point of thinking back today is that we let it go tomorrow. We just add awareness to the fact, I didn't like that I had that Oreo cookie. Well, okay. That's fine. I did it. No big deal. Move on. I'm going to do it until I don't. And look forward. Look back only to add awareness to how you responded. And so, I don't know. It can be an emotional time. It can be a heavy time. It can be a time of just being like, there's a lot of things I did this year that I didn't like that I did. And I wasn't even aware of it. Now that I'm looking back, I'm like, I started these arguments, or I continued to have arguments that I could have let go, and all of these things. And it's just like, okay, well, take that into consideration and move forward. I do a lot of reflecting during this time, and do a lot of reflecting and writing and journaling and drawing and candle lighting and herb, what is it called? I can't, I want to say it's called rubbing, but it's not. It's like, you smudging. Yeah. I do a lot of herb smudging. A lot of stuff just to kind of like be aware of where things are headed. Be aware of the fact that, I'm here and, I'm moving forward through space, and it's wonderful. And how do I want to make this year better? That doesn't mean that it's going to be better. It just means what awareness do I want to bring into this year? What awareness do I want to try and have with me as I enter this new year? It's just a good time to do that. And with the Rauhnacks the way they are, and with this whole time thing being funky at the moment, it's good to use that time. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a random number. Oh, no, I'm not. JK is going to join me. You on a morning walk today?
So just took out the trash. And as you were talking, in that trash bin, so I've been doing reflecting and all this stuff. And it was funny because yesterday I was going through some stuff, and I found some old notebooks that I had.
Oh,
And
yeah.
And I'm going through these old notebooks, and they spanned years because I wasn't very consistent in journaling, and I didn't throw them out. And
Right.
if you, depending on which, where you went, you had some 2021, 22, 23, you had various years. And it was really interesting to see all the stuff I carried forward year after year. Each year was
Yeah.
the same. You know, there was nothing. There was no renewal. I was telling Julie last night that New Year's was not a thing for me. Always did a party and like for my daughter and stuff. And, yeah, I would celebrate, but really not like it because
Right.
I felt like it was a crock. Like it was just, I was being scammed. Like everything stayed the same year after year. And it was really interesting to read through all the things that I was trying over the years. But the feeling, and those journals that have like, how do you feel today or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Those words all stayed the same. I felt bad about myself in some way, and it was pretty consistent over time. And well, you know what? I took those damn journals and I threw them out. I
Good
ripped
for
it
you.
all up and they're gone now. Because this is probably one of the first years that I felt that, it is a new start, and it is beautiful, and the perspective it has changed, and I didn't feel those feelings I was reading about myself, old, ugly, tired. I don't feel any of those.
Oh, that's so good.
And so that's what I did. And I found some old letters that I had written and some new ones that I hadn't ever mailed, and got rid of those too. And, it was really, really awesome. It was a really awesome feeling to
Oh,
be able to do that today and yesterday. And I'm sure there's more shit I didn't find yet, but whatever I could find went. And it was
it's
really
funny.
nice.
It's funny to leave things behind. A friend of mine, as she was going through some growing, she started going through her place, and she was astonished at how many receipts she found. And it's
Yeah.
funny, because of how much attention did she put on money, how much attention she put on and she was living in New York. So the idea of like how much of your attention is on commerce, how much of your attention, and you're keeping these things, and they have an energetic signature. Whether
Yeah.
or not you look at them, whether or not you know they're there, they're energetically affecting you. And it's just funny how like these things can sit around and maybe you never look at them. Or maybe once every 10 days on average, you might glance in their direction and know what's in there. Whether you know what's in there consciously or subconsciously because you wrote it in there, it's there. And it's
It's still
affecting you.
living. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny because I found one page I read, and I didn't go too far into it, but one page that I found and landed on, it said, I was grateful for a letter that my daughter had written me, and I had the letter in there, and I read the letter, and I was like, this is a terrible letter. I was like, this is just like, it was beautiful. Yes, I love you and all this, but it was like, I just want you, something about, I forget now. I guess I let it go, but something where it was very apparent that she felt like she needed my approval for something. And
Wow.
that to me, when I read it yesterday, I was like, that's fucked up. I
Yeah.
never want that. I'm not grateful for that letter. Adios. Like, let's go. And that was
Yeah.
it. And it was
And
really such a change in perspective for me, because imagine at that time, the only words I probably saw on that page was that she loved me.
right.
And I couldn't see past that.
Or like I can imagine a parent being in a state where it's like, yes, like my daughter wants my approval and I want to approve of my daughter. And it's like we can think in a world of transaction, right? In a world of Like, because that's the thing. Well, that's the agreement, right? The agreement is that you do things to gain my approval and your life will be better. And I know that sounds from this perspective as it is gross, right? From where you are today. But in a mind that is totally submerged in the manifestation alone, that is comforting. And that's the thing that's scary, right?
It is.
And the, in the Tao, it says things, there are so many lines that address this. One of them that's coming to mind, or it just slipped my mind, is don't make light of what is important to others.
Yeah.
It's like, because if we were to tell people that are lost in transactional relationships and all of these things, if we were to tell them how truly like fucked up those ideas are, and we were to express them to them and open this up, one, they couldn't hear it, but if they did, they would feel so the judgment would come in so heavily, because they'd be like, wait a minute, I'm marrying someone to put them in prison? Or I'm marrying someone to get what I want, but I love them. It's just like, well, I know that's what it feels like. But oftentimes we love other people so that we don't feel unloved.
Yep. That's one of the things that, I'm working through now, is the after effects of that,
Right.
just realizing, looking at, as you're working through different things, these times of growth, and realizing that you're realizing after the fact that you don't want that anymore. You weren't aware that you did that.
Right.
And now you're like, okay. And I had to I woke up, I struggled with it these weeks.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenge. And one day I woke up, I said, so what? This is there. You have the work. And when you're ready, pick it up and do it, and shut up.
That's
and
right.
Stop torturing yourself. And it's kind of like what you were saying in the beginning, about, you don't want to reflect based on judgment, because you're done then. There's nothing. It's just dead ends it. And there's no energy and there's no growth.
Right.
You just stopped growing there. So I did that. I woke up, I don't know whenever it was. And I said, okay, so what? So what? You have all these relationships built on transactions. So what?
So what? It's fine. And we start moving in a direction. You start moving in a direction where you're just like, oh, well, I don't want my relationship with my daughter to be transactional, so I have to love her. Like, what? like how audacious. Like that's the thing, because that's the alternative. It's like once you and it's just like, it's like so easy, because all you have to do is love her, and you love her for who she is. You don't dictate what that is. And as you love her, she becomes more in love with herself, and you guys get to just love each other. Mm-hmm. And that's beautiful.
And then you move on to the next thing, because it's
right. Because there's more.
Because there's always more. It never ends, and that's okay. You can look at it as daunting, and it felt, when I initially started to become aware of these things and have these thoughts and these reflections, the weight was heavy. And I said, why? Why are you carrying shit around you don't need to? Just stop. And I did. And it was, I put it down, and I pick up pieces of it when I'm ready to, and I deal with it. And some of those connections are going to be easier to work through than others. Some of them are going to disconnect, some of them might fall away. I don't know, but we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and pick a number and see what comes up for us.
Well, we'll be here where you began, so just pick a random one, because I don't have a number.
Sounds good. 58, to oversee, don't interfere. 58, huh? Interesting. Because I don't recall reading this title in quite some time, and just reading it is interesting. Just because I don't recall the last time I read this one. I mean, maybe I will as I get into it. But in overseeing anything, don't interfere. Let everything flourish in its own time. Interfering, you get met with resistance, or worse, apathetic adherence. Oh, I remember this one, and I like it. Misery and misfortune are tied to expectation. To expect success is to focus on failure. To expect happiness is to invite misery. To expect moral adherence is to flirt with tragedy. There is no escaping it. Expecting good yields bad. This is interfering, and it has always been true. The master, therefore, is content to simply be an example. She has no desire to impose and trusts all that she oversees. She is firm but yielding. She is sharp, yet none are cut by her. She is radiant but easy on the eyes. It ends there, by the way. She's radiant but easy on the eyes. And it's just like, oh yeah, she's beautiful. Of course she is. Mm-hmm. And I, you know, like, I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit. I'm easy on the eyes. There's this idea in me that it's impossible for me to like promote this sort of thing, because I can't prove it, because beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder. And that is probably why this is true. The meaning of one of the things that I have found that people that start this journey go through is they become so beautiful inside and out. Like years I've found, like, and this is subjective, my experience. With everybody that I work with, they just shed so much stress, so much pain. And it's like you can hold so much of this energy and so much of this, and you know, as this ends, right? But she's easy on the eyes. It's like it's easy to be with you. And it's not, you know, sometimes it's not easy to be with beautiful people, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. You know, because arrogance and other things like that. But there's a difference between people who truly love in their heart and who truly understand and have awareness of the gift of their lives, and don't expend so much energy on things that they don't need, and wanting things to be different. You're easy to look at. You're easy to be with. And that's something that I really love about this one. And we didn't even go through all the other stuff. I'm just looking at the end. But did anything stand out for you?
What you were saying makes sense. And the ability, one of the things I'm noticing, you know, the ability to see the beauty in others, or see others, just see others, you know, the people that you wouldn't have seen before has been really remarkable.
Yeah.
'Cause you're aware of what's going on, and you don't see the other stuff per se. You're able to see them. And, you know, when somebody sees you, it's really a gift, because so many people can't look beyond, you know, whatever they're themselves, really, you know, whatever they're going through. And so, you know, to be able to look people in the eyes again and actually see them and be aware of these other humans and other beings, not just humans, you know, even the connection with my dog has changed. So,
I bet.
you know, it's really that part.
Okay, you just dropped off, and you ended with Andy, yeah. So you can come back up and we can finish this. and it's so funny, and we'll get back to this, is the idea that so much of this is about expectation. So go on.
Well, yeah, I don't remember what I was thinking, but I was kind of just thinking about what you had said about the beauty part and, not just our own beauty and realizing that, but, them becoming a light for others and the ability to be easy for others.
Yeah.
That, because I couldn't. I was always taxing others. I was taxing myself so much that that's all I radiated.
Right.
Um, and how wonderful that you can actually, because I've always, I want to connect with people. I wanted to help people. I wanted to connect. What
Yeah.
help means, I don't know. I don't, that's irrelevant. It was really just the connection, whatever that meant. But I couldn't. I couldn't
Right.
do it. I
Because
couldn't see them. I couldn't see myself. And it was always stress. It was always, people have social anxiety and stuff. And I'm not. I'll talk to anybody. But I didn't feel good about it. I never felt good about conversations and when I left them. And I never let them go either because I play them in my head.
right.
Now I
And so
don't
I
do
could
that
have
so
said this. I
much.
could.
Yeah.
like I wanna just kind of point out. I know you shared a story with me the other day about someone who lost their dog and their husband,
Yeah.
and you chatted with them, and like you're overseeing, like so you're in that time, and this is no disrespect to this woman, but when you're in a state of having lost something, you're arguably not at your best, right? So,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't want to say that, and because I don't want that to be. I don't want someone to hear that and be like, "Oh, I could do it." Yes, well, yes, of course you can. But if you're in a conversation with somebody that is that has not dealt with that loss and is actually doing fairly well in their life, if we were to judge like where people are in terms of being able to connect, who's the responsible one? Who's the one who should take more of the weight of that conversation? It's the person that is doing well, like, and what this states in the beginning is, in overseeing anything, don't interfere. You're overseeing that moment of that person who just lost their husband and dog. You're in that moment. And what a better gift to recognize that you're the caregiver right now. You're overseeing this interaction. Yes, this interaction is going to end in 15 minutes. But to take on the responsibility and to recognize the gift of that responsibility for that 15 minutes. But what it says is, in overseeing anything, don't interfere. Let everything flourish in its own time. So all you do by recognizing your responsibility is open your heart at this moment. All you do is let her be who she is. And you just hold space. I know sometimes we can utilize that term and as a catch-all, hold space. But it's like, seriously, that's all you're doing. Is you're being
there's
here.
no weight there then,
Right.
it's
There's nothing you have to do.
Yeah.
Right. And because what it says here is, interfering, you get met with resistance, or worse, apathetic adherence. And so, and I know what you shared with me was that, and this is the experience of so many people, is that they would feel like a lot of anxiety because, I don't know how to act in front of someone who's lost all this and is hurting.
Yeah.
And so I would want to interfere so I can get out of it, or make a joke and get them out of the state that makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
And
what they would do is either resist and walk away and, be like, like I can't connect, or worse, apathetic adherence. they would stuff it down for you so that you can be comfortable. And that's that. I mean, if we think about that, what we're asking someone to do.
The apathetic, I've read this one, or you've read
I
this
think
one
it
to
was one
me.
of the first ones that we read together.
Could be. The apathetic adherence at the time was huge for me.
Yeah.
And that was that one
I think
sentence was
resonated with the way your daughter was. It was just like,
yeah. And I couldn't, I mean, the idea of, her just, whatever. It was just so, it was hurtful. And I never wanted that. Like, because even then, even at that time, whenever that was, that version of me knew that wasn't love,
right.
And now my definition of love has really changed. But even at that moment, without any of the understanding, I knew I didn't want that at a minimum. And it was really, something that resonated with me. And when you're talking about, the other people and when I realized there was nothing I could do. I can't raise her husband from the dead. I can't bring her dog back. All I could do is what you said, hold space and whatever that meant. And I didn't define it either. I was there and I allowed myself to feel. And that is something that I've struggled with because intellectually, I don't know what she needs.
Right.
In my head, I can't logically, without her telling me, give her anything that she might want because I don't know.
And even if she tells you what it is, you can't know
it might not
that's
be
what
true.
she needs. Right.
Exactly. You can't be in somebody else's experience. But, when you open your heart and when you feel your way through those situations, then you leave that room for the inspiration.
Right. That's when you're simply
and that's
holding
where
space.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and that's the thing, like this moves into this, and this is why these are riddles, because it moves into this part of the verse that talks about expectation. And, in the first lines, in overseeing things, don't interfere. And what interfering really kind of expresses in one way or another is expectation. I want this to go away. I want this to be different. I want you to feel better. Yeah. I want, and it's like, no, I don't want you to feel better. You might feel better after talking to me, but I don't want that. I don't not want it, but I'm not moving in a direction where I have an expectation that when we're done talking, you're going to feel better and I'm going to be the one who you are going to look back on and say, when I talk to that person, I feel good. Because that's not, and then what it says is there's no escaping it. Expecting good yields bad. It's like if you go in with some expectation of what's going to happen when you interact with this person, you're going to just make things worse.
Yep. Very much so.
There's no having an expectation of any kind of somebody. You're interfering. You're interfering with their lives. When we talk about this idea of like living reasonably, we talk about you having your autonomy to live your own life. And that's it. And it's like, if you want that, offer that to others. Let her be sad right now. Maybe she doesn't want to be sad. Well, that's interfering on her part. You don't have to necessarily go with that. If your heart opens and allows you to joke about things and have a good time, that's fine. Don't interfere in where you're being guided either.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's a process. It's a process. So figuring out first when it makes sense to engage, to find that balance between your intellect and your heart, and then find that space where you're able to listen to whatever intuition. It was funny because I was picking out a book for my children's thing whatever day, and I'm going through it, and I'm, I said, I don't know, and I picked up one, and when I picked it up, I felt it. Like I knew that was the one,
subtle.
and it was very subtle,
but clear as day.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I was like, cool. And so I just, and I was going to bring the other books and I was like, nah, you don't need them. Just put them away. And it
Nice.
was perfect. It was a beautiful moment. It was a beautiful, I was able to, I don't know, I don't really even remember what I said, but it was a
Doesn't
beautiful
even, no,
way
it doesn't matter. Like
to,
yeah, that
yeah,
was the experience that was had.
well, to convey what was in my heart. And that was the
Right.
thing. And that's what I go in there with that, with not an expectation, because I don't know the outcome, but with
Right.
an intention. And that,
Yeah.
figuring out the difference there has been, interesting. Do I desire this? Is this a want? Is it a need? And really trying
Hmm.
to get in that space where you figure that stuff out. And it's a
Yeah.
process, and you're not going to get it right all the time. And that's okay. You're not going to feel that tinge like, oh, this is the perfect book every time. Sometimes it's
Right.
going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
And then you go back, you
But
reflect, you
that
learn,
was
you
the
do the
perfect
next one.
experience. Right. But that was the perfect experience as well. That shit show was what you needed to learn about where you held expectation.
Yes. And I'll tell you something. It was, now I forgot it, but yesterday I was doing something and I had gotten embarrassed, and it was just a fleeting moment
Hmm.
that I was embarrassed about something because
Yeah.
I was so excited. And that was, and it, it's like what you had said. You probably, when you had your roommate and you'd get giddy about something, you probably
Oh,
wouldn't have done
yeah.
that if that person was there.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was one of those situations. That was me. And I forget the whole context, but the gist of it is that I was able to remember that experience and apply it. And if I hadn't had that embarrassment, I wouldn't have remembered that experience because there was something still there that I had to work through. And I can't remember it because I probably took care of it and it's gone now. But you know, I would always get caught up in those moments. Oh my God, I was embarrassed. Oh my God, what do they think of me?
Right.
And it wasn't. It was a little tinge of it. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, okay, I'm a little embarrassed. Cool. Moved
Yeah.
on, and then later on, something presented. And I was able to remember that experience, apply it to that. And then
Right.
now that's gone too. And how
Right.
great. And so
Yeah.
I'm able to see, the beauty in that embarrassment and not get caught up in it.
Yeah. And, embarrassment is a trigger, and we can look at it and we can say, sometimes embarrassment is like, I'm embarrassed to want something. I'm embarrassed to be happy that I received something. I'm embarrassed because I'm gonna, like my success is gonna infringe on others. And that can, and I know for myself, like, I was often embarrassed to be right against my parents or adults because because I get punished for showing up my parents or whatever, and
Yep.
so there are these frames of reference that I carry that tell me how to be and what is, it's not necessarily embarrassment, but it was, fear that was tinged in it, and like shame and other things like that. It's really like our emotions and the way we go through things is so interesting. And to be able to just, because I say a trigger is just something that helps you, that makes you feel something strongly.
Mm-hmm.
And embarrassment is definitely a strong feeling. And so looking at the root of that, just like we would look at like the root of an angry trigger, just like we would look at the root of, a happy trigger if we were looking at those things. Anytime we look at a trigger, we just kind of bring it back to, where did I learn that this was embarrassing? How
Yeah.
silly. Because it's not like, what
Who
is it?
cares?
Right.
Nobody
And
cares.
it's like, right. Nobody cares.
It
Nobody
doesn't
cares.
matter. No.
And, there was a time where I was delivering food after I got my diagnosis with MS and all this other stuff was going on. And I was trying to, earn more money or whatnot. And they use an app, and the app wouldn't always turn off when your phone turned off. And so it was an audio app like this. And imagine if you were just in your room singing to yourself and the app was on and you didn't know. And so like you're singing to all of these people that like
Yeah.
are part of, like, their job is to listen.
I've done it.
And so, you're right. And I was like, I'm so embarrassed. But that was a time that I was able to go back and look at, like, why was who cares? And I put it down, and because I didn't mention it at all, it went away, where people that would mention it, and it would stay alive, and that embarrassment would stay alive in their lives for so long.
I'm going to drop off. Happy
Well,
New
thank
Year.
you. Happy New
I'll
Year.
talk to you
Love
soon.
you. We'll talk again
Love.
soon. Well, I did see Susan was in. I don't want to, and I saw that you dropped off, but if you did want to come up, of course, there's no one in the queue. I'm going to go ahead and bring Susan up. I don't ever want to convince anybody to come up. If you had to go or anything, it's no big deal. Hey, Susan, how are you doing, love?
I'm good. How are you, Martin John?
I'm doing really well. How's your year ending?
I just had such a major light bulb moment while you were talking to JK. That's why I came on, and I wanted to come on, and then I lost my train of thought, and that's why I went away, because I thought, say.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the light bulbs, they go on and they change your lives, even if you don't remember what they were.
Well, this has really changed me. This is going to change me, because my daughter has trouble with her marriage sometimes. And I'm the one that she calls and talks to. And my go-to method was always to try to fix it, make things better for her. And it would leave me with like this gut-wrenching feeling after we hung up that I was inadequate, that I couldn't help, and I can't help. And that's what I just realized. I can't help. I just have to listen. I just have to listen and be there, make no judgment. You know, I would go, oh, well, I can't believe you did that. And, you know,
and when we apply all that we've learned here on Tao today, and we look at this idea of like, okay, well, you're experiencing your own, right? You're experiencing yourself, right? Through the experience that you're having is about you. Like her telling you is about her and all of that kind of stuff, and she's having that experience. But if we separate you and your daughter and recognize that you're having two separate experiences, and your experience is to help, like we have to look at the marriages that you've gone through and what your expectations were for those, and how you may have shame or embarrassment or all of these things around those things and around how you've acted and all of this. And
absolutely.
And that is now at the foundational core of what you're offering on those calls with your daughter. It's not really about helping her, because she's going through the experience that she's having. And so, you know, with this 58, I mean, if I were just to dip into that, in overseeing anything, don't interfere.
I loved 58. That was wonderful.
Yeah. And let everything flourish in its own time. And if that means that what's going to flourish is a divorce, well, okay, so be it. If that means what's going to flourish is a beautiful relationship of two individuals like picking each other up, that's great too. But interfering, you get met with resistance or worse, apathetic adherence.
Mm-hmm. And I watched, you know, when I was at her house over Christmas, I noticed such a big difference in their relationship. They were communicating, they were holding hands, they were walking together. And just the other week, she was telling me how much she hated him, couldn't stand being married to him anymore. And my stomach was just in knots. Yeah. And I have to learn to just let everything progress the way it's going to progress. There's nothing I can do to change it anyway. Just be there.
And I love the idea. Light bulb. You know, I love the idea also, like that you have gone through like all of these huge shifts in loving. Well, one, like I recall a conversation we had around Thanksgiving where you were just like, you know, contemplating the idea of being back with your ex.
It happens periodically.
Yeah, you know, and then I recall like Christmas with your ex, right? And then you know, like, remember, every experience you have is just a reflection of you at that moment. And so what you're paying attention to, what you're looking for, what your expectations are. And here it is, you know, like you have a much more open heart today, let's say, than you have had access to in the past.
Right.
Because you allow things to be as they are. You don't have expectations for them. And as you grow, and like a couple weeks ago, the person you were saw, piss and vinegar more than the person you are today. And then the person you are today gets to look around and see two people holding hands. And it's like, oh, that's warm and that's light. And then I don't have to justify the fact that 6 weeks ago she, was on the verge of leaving this relationship. Because maybe she still is. But what I see is love. And so even if this turns out to be a divorce, love can still grow there. It's going to be a different kind of love, but it's still love.
So true. Wow, that's so true. Because I realized when my ex-husband, apologized to me that I still felt love for him.
Absolutely.
And I thought, what the heck? I don't want to get back with him, and which has always been my go-to.
Right.
I don't want to get back with him. I don't like living with him. He's not fun.
But, so much of that is the rule. It's the structure. It's the masculine of just like, if you love somebody, this is what you do. Burp, burp, burp.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, no, if I love somebody, I love them. And you know what? It's impossible for me to not love somebody because I love myself. And I'm experiencing everyone from that perspective.
Well, what was really funny, when he apologized to me, I actually looked at him and said, I love you. And I didn't mean it in a sexual way. Or
you weren't trying to get anything out of it.
Nothing. I just felt that love for him at that moment.
Yeah.
Wow. Just wow. This whole new year is just going to be awesome.
Right. It's amazing.
A lot of fun here.
Yeah, it's amazing when we open ourselves up and can love ourselves to that degree that when we see somebody, we're just like, oh, I love you.
I couldn't believe I said it. It just popped out of my head, my mouth.
Yeah.
I thought,
I
hope he doesn't take it wrong, but
that's his business.
If he does?
Yeah, that's his business. And you might, there might be moments where you have to, redress what's going on because he's gonna be like, no, that's not what this is. Right. I love you. Now sit your ass down before I have to put it down. You know what I mean? It's just like, you don't, like it says, the master hates engaging a weapon, but there is a point where shit's gotta fucking get done. Get done. So, but when you can, and that's the thing, like when you receive that line, when you receive love from someone in that way where they say, I love you, and you really receive that, that's life-changing. And you can, that true love, not that I love you because I'm looking for you to tell me that you love me.
Exactly.
Right? Like
I just felt it and it just popped out of my mouth.
Yeah. And sometimes when I do that, when I say, I love you, because I'll say that to somebody that's brand new on my show. And it's like, I of course don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but it's just coming out. And I'm not doing it because I want people to say I love you back. Exactly. And sometimes when people I say I love you back, I stop them and I say, no. Don't say anything. I love you. And just receive that. Please. Because so many people have such a hard time receiving love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that, like it says here, and overseeing anything, don't interfere. I'm overseeing how they're receiving my I love you. I get that. But just to pause them because I don't want them to miss what just happened, especially if it's coming from such a loving place.
Yeah.
You know, like you just expressed to your ex, just like, I love you, like in some profound way that is unexpressible. I love you. And this is the best way I can do it. And then if you just skip past that to give me something, to give me an explanation, an apology, or this or that, whatever, it's like, no. You would have never had to have come in here to apologize to receive that love. You did.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that.
Right.
But I want you to recognize that I love you.
And I think, well, I can't think for what he...
No.
Yeah. He left on that note. He just walked out. And I don't know, whatever went through his mind is irrelevant.
Absolutely.
I just felt so good.
That's right. And then got back to your book. And it's like, and that's it. That's all that it is. It doesn't require you to celebrate. There's nothing else there.
End of chapter.
Right. And turn the page and there's another page full of fucking words. And it's like, start reading.
That. Yeah,
that's
look
it.
at that.
Look at that.
Oh,
Far
I
out.
love it. I love it. So much fun. I'm actually going to have so much fun with this new year.
Yeah.
I'm learning to have fun with my life.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's what you were always looking for.
Exactly. And I just couldn't find it in anything I was doing, not in the alcohol or the drugs or the horse or the house, or,
No, it's not in any of those things.
No.
And that's the thing. And then, when we look at Tao and it says things like you can look, but you can't see it. You can listen, but you can't hear it. It's like, oh, it's right here. And it has always been here.
It was right here inside of me the whole time.
The whole time.
Yep.
And, and we talk about Tao. It says, those who are fooled by manifestation. It's like, yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
I was fooled.
Oh, boy.
I was like, oh, man, I was a sucker. I was a sucker for all of this stuff that I'm looking at.
Developed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way to see the forest through the trees, the water that you're swimming in and all that. It's just like, it's just everywhere.
Well, and then my mind was so muddled anyway by doing as much alcohol and drugs.
Right.
That I would, who could tell what I was thinking? I don't think I had any coherent thoughts.
No, you were just, it was all exterior. It was all like,
all
if I do this.
what was happening. Exactly.
Right. If money is going to find me fulfillment. Security is going to find me fulfillment. Love is going to find me fulfillment. A horse is going to find me fulfillment. My praise by my peers is going to find me fulfillment. And it's like all of those things eventually end up not giving you even a good feeling.
Yeah. I thought my third husband was going to give me a good feeling. Not.
That's right. It was like all of these things are going to fill me up, but you're full already.
I am now.
Oh,
I'm getting fuller. I'm getting fuller by the day.
And the paradox is that you're emptier than ever.
Exactly. I have dumped so much.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wait, I was born complete. It's like finding that completeness is like, this is why we talk about pre-karmic buffet and stuff. You have to go through some shit before you can be who you are.
Yep.
You have to see it.
I have to even say that I'm happy that I went through a lot of what I went through because
Absolutely.
I never would have learned the lessons, that I needed to go forward in my life. I ignored them a lot. I masked them and ignored them a lot. But I can reflect now, and I think I told you about this later or before, that I look back and I see why all these things, I can see a progression of why things happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to me. Anyway, Happy New Year, Martin.
Happy
John.
New Year, Susan.
I'm going to have the happiest New Year I think I've ever had.
Oh, and I'm going to be in bed by 8.
I usually am. That's
I
why I'm
love
up
you,
at
dear.
5.
Like,
I love you too,
and
Marisa.
I'm looking forward to being here on your journey as well.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Are we gonna bring Laura up? Hey, Laura, how are you doing today?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm beautiful. I'm all blessed. It's such a beautiful day. Raining and cold, but beautiful nonetheless. Do I got you?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. So what's going? How do you end your year?
Mindfully.
Good. Wonderful.
Been looking at some affirmations that I'm reading and repeating to myself.
Wonderful.
And thinking about what what I've learned this year and what has been useful. And thinking about...
Let's take a pause. Let's take a pause. Let's just sit quiet for a moment. I'm feeling a heaviness. What's going on? Is anything specific happening?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't feel a heaviness.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm just a little meditative or
Okay.
meditative.
Meditative. Yeah. And you're just still. Just still. Mm-hmm. It's good. You know, have you heard of Rauhnacht, or the Wild Hunt?
No.
Okay. It's German folklore, and Rauhnacht is the time of year that we're in right now. It's these kind of 12 days before Christmas and Epiphany, or 12 days between the solstice and the new year. And it's a time in which time is really funky. The veil between the spirit world and the manifestation is very thin. And it is a time where stillness and, time can feel like it's standing still sometimes. Sometimes time can just disappear. Sometimes days could last weeks, and it's a time in, like when for millennia, mankind followed the moon, and their calendar, quote unquote, was governed by the moon, because the moon goes through a cycle every month. So it's easy to experience that cycle. The sun cycle takes a year, as we know it now. And so it takes a lot longer to establish a familiarity with it. And you have to kind of have a calendar in order to experience that. Whereas to experience a month, every day, the moon changes significantly enough that you can notice it. And that can be your calendar. So when we switched from the relationship model, and we had a relationship with the moon and the earth and the stars and all of these things, and then when we shifted it to a solar model, we added 12 days. And so what ended up happening is that this time of year honors or tips is a tipping of the hat to those 12 days, because it's known as a time without time. And so when you're going through your day and when you're going through your meditations and when you're going through your time, you may notice time is acting a little strange these days. And that could lead to wanting to be more quiet, lead to be wanting to be more still as we enter this new phase. And we could chalk it up to, well, it's because of the holidays, I'm not going to work, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But time is still funky. And as we're kind of doing these things, we're like, I'm inspired to do things, and I do quite a bit in the day possibly. But it also feels like it doesn't take any effort. Unless it takes a lot of effort and I want it to be done, but I don't have the energy to muster to do it. It's a really interesting time. And I don't know if you're feeling that, but it seems like it's harder to get up out of bed in the morning sometimes. Sometimes it's harder to fall asleep. Sometimes we have very vivid dreams. And as it relates to 12 nights, each dream, depending on the night it is, the story is it relates to having intuition or having insight into what's going to be going on in your life over the next 12 months, each night giving you a glimpse into each progressive month of the next year.
That's interesting. Yeah, I probably feel that.
So that might be, like coming to grips with this time of year, because you're in the middle of it. Like you probably don't go back to school until the 6th.
Right, but I still got up at 3:30.
No, of course. You have I'm sure you do, but it's still to get rid of that structure, that heavy structure in your life. And it's not gone completely because that'd be silly, right? But it is, it's a big shift.
Yeah, but I like the shift to living more in the moment.
Yeah.
And being more mindful of all my choices. Mm-hmm. As in just putting out there what's on my heart, on my mind, and listening more. Just taking more time to be quiet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
that's what this time is for.
And a reflection.
Mm-hmm. You have a number for me today?
Yeah. How about 55?
55 is inner strength and harmony. This one is all about trusting the journey, really, and not judging where you're at or where you're going, and just kind of like letting go. And so like that time that you're talking about being still and non-judgmental and all that, like as we enter the new year, like that's going to be, that's a point in this. It's like one who has inner strength is like a baby boy, unspoiled, flexible, and empty with no judgment. Bees, wild beasts, birds of prey cannot harm him. With no knowledge of the world, his penis can stand erect. He has no shame or question of why. Caught in manifestation, the myriad scream for a time, and he hardly notices. His harmony is so aligned that he can scream forever without getting hoarse. He is powered by his harmony, and thus all fear is kept at bay. The master never speaks of possessing anything. Life is the blessing. Those who pursue power and excitement find themselves confused. They allow their emotions to guide them, and they become exhausted. It is not from Tao, and whatever is not from Tao arrives dead. Did anything stand out to you in this one?
Sure. So, for one, the word baby boy kind of got stuck in my mind.
Okay.
And harmony aligned, harmonious.
Yeah.
The word harmony, I like that.
Yeah, so the two things that are connected here is like we were talking about the baby boy, unspoiled, flexible, and empty with no judgment. Bees, wild beast of prey, cannot harm him. So that's just stating what inner strength is like. So it's not saying anything about the baby boy. It's talking about inner strength. Inner strength is unspoiled, flexible, and empty with no judgment. That is what we're describing as inner strength. Now we move on to the boy and say his harmony, the baby boy's harmony. And this means the harmony of your inner strength is so aligned that when you are doing what you do, you can do it without getting tired. Because it says here, he can scream forever without getting hoarse. You can travel a path for your entire life, and as long as it's in harmony, you will never tire.
Very
the
nice.
myriad, so many people are caught in manifestation that they can scream for a time. They can follow a path for a little while. And he hardly notices that they're on a path at all because they tire and stop. But he is powered by his harmony. Your inner strength is powered by harmony. And so fear of what's ahead is kept at bay. Why? Because a baby boy cannot be harmed by bees, wild beasts, or birds of prey. Why? Because he's curious. He looks at that wild boar and he's like, oh, what a cute pig. And he can walk right up to it. And the pig would be amazed. And maybe the pig gores him and he dies. However, it is his curiosity that guides him, and he does not fear. And being that he does not fear, he cannot be harmed. He will be in harmony no matter what happens.
Yes, and he will not seek power. Another word is to that
Right.
is the power that if you seek power, you're not going to have it, something like that.
Yep.
Those who have power are those who don't make a big deal out of it.
Right. The master never speaks of possessing anything. That little boy, that inner strength doesn't say, I'm going to put a leash on that pig. Why would you want to do that? You let that wild beast be wild. You let that cat be a cat. You don't have to make it what you want. Life is the blessing, and I am so grateful for it to have life, and that I can be here and appreciate it, and I can be curious. Those who pursue power and excitement find themselves confused. They allow their emotions to guide them and become exhausted. And that's where it all comes in. It's just like, oh, I'm excited about this. I'm sad about that. I'm angry about this. I'm embarrassed about that. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling that. And it's like, oh, I'm confused at what's even going on within me. And now I'm tired. And that is not from Tao. That's not harmony. Be who you are. No matter if the time is funky or reflective or exciting, you're still there in the center of the circle.
I like that.
Yeah. And thank you so much for coming up. I hope you and your husband have a wonderful new year. Are you doing anything special tonight?
Well, for me, it's special to stay home and continue to be mindful and harmonious and allow myself to receive love and give love. And you helped with that because even though the first time when you told me I love you, I felt weird and embarrassed. I thought I was like strange. only because of the culture where I come from, we don't say that to someone we haven't met. We just kind of say that only to extremely close people or people that we are in love with. But I see that it's different here and with you and some of other people on a new vibe. And so I give love. I love you.
What a wonderful place to end that. I love you. Thank you so much. I'm going to take another moment. I'm just going to give love to everybody listening right now and everyone who came through the room. Everybody on Noom Vibe, far and wide. I love you guys. I'm looking forward to sharing more with you. I'm looking forward to be with you throughout 2025. And thank you for a wonderful December. Thank you for a wonderful 2024. Thank you for all of the hurdles that so many of you have overcome since beginning to listen to this program. I hope that you guys, well, I don't hope anything. I hope that I can be a space for you to be. That's really all that I want. And it is. So, done, I guess. I love you guys. If you are interested in anything of mine, you can check out links in my profile. martinjohn.com/DAO is a place that you can find all of the text if you are so interested. Laura, I'm going to go ahead and send you 55. JK and Susan, you're getting 58 shortly. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.